What if the most compassionate thing a leader can do is act ruthlessly, just once? You're sitting there, probably thinking that sounds absurd, but bear with me, because we're about to dive into the mind of Niccolò Machiavelli, the 16th century philosopher who's still widely regarded as one of the most influential thinkers on politics and power. As you imagine yourself in a dark throne room, surrounded by flickering torchlight, the shadows dancing on the walls seem to take on a life of their own, symbolizing the harsh realities of leadership that Machiavelli wrote about. You're the ruler, and the weight of that responsibility is crushing you, the power and the glory of the throne both exhilarating and terrifying. You're faced with a difficult decision, one that will impact the lives of thousands, maybe even millions of people, and you're not sure what to do. Do you take the easy way out and make a decision that will placate the masses, but ultimately lead to more suffering in the long run? Or do you take a stand and make a choice that will be unpopular, but ultimately lead to a better outcome for everyone? This is the dilemma that Machiavelli wrote about in his famous book, The Prince, where he argued that a leader must be willing to get their hands dirty, to make the tough decisions, even if it means being cruel. You're thinking to yourself, how can cruelty possibly be kind? Doesn't that go against everything we've been taught about compassion and empathy? But Machiavelli would argue that sometimes, the most compassionate thing you can do is to act ruthlessly, to make a decision that will cause pain in the short term, but ultimately lead to a better outcome for everyone. He believed that a leader must be willing to make the tough decisions, even if it means being unpopular, because in the end, it's not about being liked, it's about being effective. You're starting to see the world through Machiavelli's eyes, a world where the ends justify the means, and where the strong do what they must, while the weak do what they can. The torches in the throne room seem to be burning brighter, casting flickering shadows on the walls, as you contemplate the harsh realities of power. As you delve deeper into Machiavelli's philosophy, you begin to realize that his ideas are not just about politics, but about human nature itself. He believed that people are inherently selfish, and that a leader must be willing to use this to their advantage, to manipulate and deceive in order to achieve their goals. This is a bleak view of humanity, but one that is rooted in a deep understanding of history and psychology. You're starting to see that Machiavelli's ideas are not just about being cruel, but about being realistic, about understanding the world as it truly is, rather than how we wish it to be. The darkness of the throne room seems to be closing in around you, as you confront the harsh realities of human nature. But what does this mean for you, as a leader? How do you balance the need to be compassionate with the need to be effective? Machiavelli would argue that you must be willing to make the tough decisions, even if it means being unpopular, because in the end, it's not about being liked, it's about being respected. You must be willing to take risks, to challenge the status quo, and to push through the obstacles that stand in your way. This is not an easy thing to do, but it's necessary, because the alternative is to be weak, to be ineffective, and to ultimately fail. The shadows on the walls of the throne room seem to be growing longer, as you contemplate the challenges of leadership. As you continue to explore Machiavelli's ideas, you begin to realize that his philosophy is not just about politics, but about life itself. He believed that we must all be willing to take risks, to challenge ourselves, and to push through the obstacles that stand in our way. This is a message that is just as relevant today as it was when he first wrote it, a message that speaks to the very heart of what it means to be human. You're starting to see that Machiavelli's ideas are not just about being cruel, but about being strong, about being resilient, and about being willing to do whatever it takes to achieve your goals. The torches in the throne room seem to be burning with a fierce intensity, as you contemplate the power of human determination. You're thinking to yourself, this is all well and good, but what about the moral implications of Machiavelli's ideas? Doesn't his philosophy justify the worst excesses of human nature, the cruelty, the manipulation, the deceit? But Machiavelli would argue that his philosophy is not about justifying these things, but about understanding them, about understanding the world as it truly is, rather than how we wish it to be. He believed that we must all be willing to confront the darkness within ourselves, to acknowledge our own flaws and weaknesses, and to use this knowledge to become stronger, to become more effective. The darkness of the throne room seems to be pressing in around you, as you confront the moral complexities of Machiavelli's ideas. As you sit there, surrounded by the shadows and the flickering torchlight, you're forced to confront the ultimate question: what does it mean to be a truly great leader, one who is both compassionate and effective? The answer, according to Machiavelli, is that sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is act ruthlessly, to make a decision that will cause pain in the short term, but ultimately lead to a better outcome for everyone, and in that moment, you realize that the line between good and evil is not